So one of the most critical things that many um, individuals who are trying to grow their own food, um, one of the most critical things they forget is how to fertilize, when to fertilize, and how much to fertilize. So right now I'm at my citrus trees in containers. Remember, these are the citrus trees that I had to nurse back to health. And these are standard Meyer lemons in containers for right now. Anytime you have a container grown plant, no matter whether it's a vegetable or a berry or a fruit tree or citrus tree, you need to fertilize on a monthly basis. Are you folks hearing me? On a monthly basis. The reason you do this simply because every time you water, not only does the soil erode, that means it goes down, you know, it's less than the soil mass of the entire container, but you wash away the nutrients that are contained in the container. So by fertilizing them with half strength, remember, half strength. So if you have a tree that's in the ground and it calls for 2 to 3 cups of fertilizer, you know, um, per age of the tree, 2, 3, 4 years old, then when it comes to a container, you're looking at you're looking at a tablespoon per 6 inches of container. So if you have a 30-inch container and you measure a container from left to right on the top, if it measures 30 inches across, divide 6 into 30. Just divide it into 30. 6 times 5 is 30. So that's five tablespoons. 5 tablespoons of fertilizer. The fertilizer I'm going to use, I'll show you. And I've shown you this before, but I'm going to fertilize one of my trees now and I'll show you. Before you fertilize any tree, make sure you pre-moisten the soil. Make sure the water flows all the way down and wets the soil. Don't add fertilizer to dry soil, whether it's organic or not. Let's get started. I'm first going to put on my gloves because I want to protect my sensitive skin from the fertilizers. It can cause irritation to some people. Let's get over here. So right now I have a bin here. This bin is placed here because I need to remove all of those wood chips. Okay? If you have a drip irrigation line, go ahead and set it aside. And you want to make sure you remove all the wood chips before you lay fertilizer down. So I use this nifty garden tool you can get at any Home Depot. Now that I've removed all of the wood chips, I'm going to apply the fertilizer. Remember, 1 tablespoon per 6 inches of the container, 30 inches across. 6 divided into 5 gives you 5 times. So you need 5 tablespoons. Now, 5 tablespoons give me roughly a half a cup. So I'm going to sprinkle that here. Now this is a standard tree. Personally, I'm going to give it a little bit more fertilizer simply because the tree is much older. It's a standard tree. Follow my recommendations, but this is personally my choice by adding a little more fertilizer. Many times, more is not always best. The fertilizer I use is made by E.B. Stone. It's a citrus and fruit tree fertilizer. Here you go. Every season, when it comes to spring, I always use about 4 to 5 inches of compost. We're talking about the compost in my garden. Now you notice there's about 5 inches of depth here. And every year this goes even lower. So I put the compost and then I add the wood chips back. Let's go ahead and scratch this fertilizer into the soil. If you break some of the feeder roots on top, don't fret, it's okay. A lot of people are concerned, well, you still have wood chips on the top, we can see them. They're gonna rob your soil of nitrogen. That's not true. It takes a long time for those wood chips to break down. By then, the tree will have its nutrients. Then I take the back end here and I sort of smoothen it out. Then I go ahead and place my wood chips back in the container. Now you could use any sort of mulch you want on top. Mulch, entire purpose is to keep the roots cool, the surface roots in the summer, and keep them warm in the winter. It's also an insulation to keep the soil moist. Here's what I love about live mulch though. Whether you use wood chips or a live bark like pathway bark, it's live, and as it breaks down over the years, it's going to provide nutrient for the soil. That's why I love it. It also attracts lots of earthworms. Now, my containers are sort of elevated on wooden square blocks, that I made. You're probably wondering, how can worms enter that? Well, they can. And they shall. If you dig in here, you'll see lots of worms, including the worms that I added when I first put my containers together. I never put a container together where I have not already added worms. Sometimes I add them at the very bottom on the cardboard. Sometimes I add them in the middle layer. Either way, I always add worms. I'm gonna go ahead and water this in. And you water it in because you want that fertilizer to now go ahead and get to the roots of your plants. Very important. So just remember, pre-wet your soil so that it's ready to uptake nutrients. Once you add the fertilizer and then etch it in to the soil, then wet the soil again so that now the soil is ready and available to receive those nutrients. Until next time, Grand Rising. Let's go ahead and replace this drip irrigation back.